So when we're writing library music, we kind of need to keep editors in mind and vaguely be aware of the end use of these tracks. You know, they're not going to be necessarily played by people in their cars or whatever, listening to them for fun. It's music for TV, media. So using the pulsing tension example, it's great to do a pulsing track. They're quite simple, but you can't just have that 8-bar loop for 3 minutes. It'd be insufferable. So you need to give the editor some variation within the track, which might not necessarily flow as a listening experience, if that makes sense. So maybe you drop out the piano for a few bars, or drop out the drums, you know, have different sections of music just to keep the interest. But specifically what editors really need are things called edit points. Now, it might be fairly self-explanatory what an edit point is. And it could potentially sound arbitrary, but it's vital. I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but it's a gap or a point somewhere in the track that you're producing where an editor can drop in or drop out, where there aren't any reverb tails, there aren't any vocals going on, guitar tails, that kind of thing. It can be a nightmare for an editor to try and fit a piece of music to picture if there isn't an easy way in and out. And the result of this can end up with your track sounding sometimes a bit choppy, but we'll get to that. Types of edit point can not just be a gap. It can be, you can have a drum fill, a little reverse cymbal, anything you can imagine really that just joins one track to the next without them flowing into each other. So an actual example was a recent brief I had from BMG. Can you do some tracks in a Fall Guys style? So first of all, I had to figure out what the hell Fall Guys was. Do you know what Fall Guys is? You're aware of it? No idea. So yeah, so I find this YouTube channel, and it's like, okay, bonkers, kind of skippy, sort of quite Japanese maybe, video game music. So I was like, okay, cool. So I did a first draft, which will hopefully work for you. And I want to point out, this is not music I would ever make myself. They asked for this. Right? Bonkers. So I sent them that draft. So with edit points in mind, this is the feedback that I got back. Love this track. I think a few more, this is from an actual email by the way, a few fun stops, breaks, pauses in the track, so it's not block format would be great. The end, more wacky breaks and playful splashes of sound, but definitely on the right lines. So I was like, okay, and I won't play you each iteration, that'd be insufferable. But I think at this point, and maybe I had 1 or 2 edit points in, so at this point I sort of added 4, sort of every 30 seconds or so, cool little transitions into the next section. So I sent them a new draft. More feedback. For me, it still needs breaks, few too many sections and blocks of music. So I was like, Christ, we're out of the norm here. Like, they want a few more edit points, okay? So I think at that point I added 6 edit points in. Then the feedback came back again. They were really specific this time. So it's less constant to more stop-start fun. Show an editor on a waveform that there is a break there. The end, more breaks again, maybe less than at the start, so 2 in each of the end section. So I was like, fuck me. They don't, at this point, they don't want like a normal track. They obviously want something that's super, super choppy, super, almost like a tool rather than a song. So I was like, okay. And I'll play you the final thing, which was I called it Scrambled. Dreadful artwork. I hate it when they do that. It ended up on an album called Sugar Blast. So we'll nip into that now. So I did 3 others as well. So this is it, Scrambled. And sure enough, you can actually see, you know, the gaps in the edit points. So I'll play from, I don't know, about here. Right, so you can hear all the edit points, and you can actually sort of hear, if you sort of drop your mouse there, bad example, try that one again. Is it there? So you can imagine them dropping that in, or dropping it, you know? So they can easily just drop in and out without it being a long block of music. It's a bonkers track, yeah, absolutely mad. But a really good example, practical, recent example of how edit points are important to the publisher and the editor.